just wanted to tell you that my original story will gonna release soon. We should look out for that. But enough of that. Let's get right into the story, because I have been waiting for a long time. I hope you guys are too. So let's begin. The weather had just turned crisp, and everyone in the jam-packed train looked sick and tired. I looked at my phone and went back to a happier time in Germany, or when I was totally an Avenger for like 10 minutes. Thankfully, we were approaching my train stop. Taking up almost the entire city block, Midtown High School of Science and Technology loomed large as I walked up the footpath. It was full of science nerds, young inventors, and overachievers. But I felt right at home. A car sped by me and skidded into the parking entrance. The license plate on the car read Flash Drive. Flash Thompson was a student here too. If I were an Avenger, he would be my ego-driven, obnoxious driver. I entered the school building and was instantly surrounded by students showing off their AI inventions and discussing string theory. I had to divide a homemade drone as I stopped at my locker. Guess who got the complete solar system, including all of Jupiter's moons? A voice rang out. It was Ned Leeds, my best friend. I looked at him in disbelief. Sick! I have been waiting for the building set to come out for months. Right? Ned replied. So, wanna build it tonight? I did, but I can't. I said, I got the Stark internship. Stark internship, I know. I could see his bubble bursting. Okay, how about this? Not compromised. I will knock out the Saturn, then swing by your place, and we can finish the ring and moons together. Okay, Saturn, my place. Later, I confirmed as the school bell rang and we parted ways. At lunch, I had just sat down with a Ned when slam! A stack of books hit the table and a group of pupils sat down with us. It was Liz, Michael, Flash, and the rest of academic Decathlon's team. We are having a practice during lunch today, Michael announced. What? I said. If you're gonna flake on every practice after school, Parker, we will just have to practice during school, Liz said. I had to be honest about nationals. I can't go, I confessed. Why? Liz sounded personally betrayed. Because I am SpiderMan. I did not say even though I wanted to. I'm really busy right now, I mumbled. You can ball on us, Liz, instead. You're our anchor on physics. Look, they wouldn't do physics a chance or 2 years in a row. I reasoned. You guys have this. I'm sorry. I grabbed my backpack and I made my escape. It was a time for me to make web fluid, also known as chemistry class. While the teacher talked excitedly about the solution we would be mixing in class today, I was at my lab station in the back of the class working on my own solution. This was the one class that I looked forward to, mainly so I could keep concocting web fluid without Aunt May finding out. I took out a pair of metal cartridges and filled them up, and just in time as the bell would be going off, any ring! Freedom! I was out of the door and 3 blocks away before Flash could even get to his car. I hopped on the train and made it back to Queens, where I made my regular pit stop at Mr. Dalma's store for a pack of gummy worms and a number 4 sandwich. Next, it was off to my Stark internship. I hated not being truthful with Ned and my friend, but I was kinda sorta technically an adventure intern, so it wasn't a total lie. I ducked into an alley and hid behind a large skip bin as I pulled my Spidey suit out of my bag and put it on. Then I pushed the button the spider button on my chest, and the suit practically came to life, whirling and contracting around me until it was skin tight. I tossed my backpack with the regular clothes into air and twip, webbed it to a bin. Then I crawled up the side of a building. Looking out, I saw the mighty city, ready to be made better by SpiderMan. I grinned under my mask. Let's get to work. It wasn't long at all before clink tong. Look down the block confirmed it. Yup, we have a robbery in progress. Someone had just cut out lock off a bike. Time to be a hero. I jumped into action, web swinging down the block, closing in on the thief. Man, this was the kind of action I lived for. Flipping through the air, I landed right in the front of the would-be bicycle bandit, stopping by in his track. "That's not your bike," I said in my best superhero voice. "Says who?" the guy challenged. "Says." I searched my brain for what to say next. Aha! Evidence right there in his pocket. "Says the bolt cutter sticking out of your pants." He started to run away. Twim! My webbing landed and I yanked him back in as a yo-yo. I grabbed the bolt cutters from his pocket and crack! Snapped them into two. "That should put an end to your bike burgling days," I told him. A little while later, I pulled out my phone to check in with the happy Stark Industries head and security. He would be helping Mr. Stark and keep track of my achievement ever since the big Avenger battle in the Germany. The phone rang a few times before I heard a too familiar message. "You have reached the voicemail of Happy Hogan. You know what to do." "Hi Happy, here's my report. Stopped 2 muggings and 1 grand theft bicycle. Just curious about when we're gonna have a next real mission. Feels like I could be doing more. Call me." I finished. I hung up and was about to head home when I saw the Avengers. Okay, it wasn't the real Avenger. It was a bunch of guys wearing a mask in an ATM booth. I swung over for a closer look. First, Hulk spoke to Iron Man, who pulled out some seriously intense tech. Then Iron Man cut through an ATM with this creepy purple energy beam. Another guy, Captain America, used an anti-gravity gizmo to pull the metal casting of ATM. It ripped apart when finally Thor joined them and began to load cash into the bag. It seemed the Avengers had assembled, and they have forgotten to invite me. Is this a bad time to ask for autograph? I quavered as I landed a few feet away from them. After a moment pause, Hulk and Thor pulled out the weapon. "Your guns are supposed to be your muscles, Jolly Green," I said, giving a little arm flex. "And Thor, you use a hammer, remember?" Ducking quickly, I grabbed the shotgun from the Hulk and swung it at Thor's pistols, disarming them both. I'm starting to think you guys aren't the real Avengers. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Cap started to move his anti-gravity gizmo. "What is that, and where I can get one?" I asked, webbing the device away from him. Thor took a swing at me, but I dodged it. "So did you guys draw straws for who got which mask? Did everyone fight over Iron Man?" Iron Man was still near the ATM with his crazy cutter. I saw him just setting on his device, preparing shot out of the full velocity, slicing the top of a car. I dodged and started as the energy beam continued, shooting all over. Suddenly, a beam shot across the street right at Mr. Dharma. I yelled. The purple energy ripped Mr. Dharma's store apart. I ran across the street and into the wreckage. Please, please let nobody hurt," I thought as I hunted the rubble. "Mr. Dharma?" I called out. A faint voice whimpered at the far end of the store. I rushed over and saw Mr. Dharma. "Are you okay?" I asked, helping him out of the building. Mr. Dharma coughed violently but gave me a thumbs up. Then he turned to look at the mess that had me stored and moaned in sorrow. Okay, now this was personal. The guy who caused the fire disappeared, so I put in another phone call to Happy. This time he answered. "Happy, boy, am I glad you picked up. Listen, I began something. Something big just happened. These guys were robbing an ATM and they had insane weapons. And Happy interrupted with an impatient sigh. Peter, he said, I have got bigger things to worry about. But Happy, I continued, they had weapons that Happy interrupted again. Just away from anything too dangerous. He said, I'm responsible for making sure you're responsible. I am responsible. Oh, not again. I cursed as I turned down the alley where I had my backpack. The backpack was gone. The skip was gone. It must have been collected by garbage truck. That doesn't sound responsible, Happy said, sounding fed up. I will call you right back, I said. We will call you, Happy replied, hanging up on me. I swung over home thinking about an awful day. I would manage to upset Liz, lose my clothes and backpack, and let the fake enemy steal a ton of cash from an ATM, almost causing Mr. Drama to get hurt. Can this day get any worse? I thought as I arrived at the apartment and crept down from the roof. I opened the window and climbed it into the ceiling, trying not to let Aunt May hear me. She couldn't see me like this. I quietly flipped onto the floor and stretched to remove my mask. The sound of 1,000 pieces of Staten hitting the floor almost caused me to jump right back out of the window. I wasn't alone. Ned's mouth moved for about 5 seconds until his brain caught up with his vocal cords. You're Spider-Man? He said from the internet. No, no use of trying to deny it now. What are you even doing here, Ned? I asked. We are going to finish Saturn together, remember? Ned replied. Who else knows? No one except Mr. Stark. He was one who made me this suit. So, you're friends with Iron Man? Ned explained, excited. This is not good. Ned, I started. You gotta keep this a secret, okay? Ned seemed to think over for a moment. Peter, he said, there is no way I can keep this secret. It is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I grabbed Ned by his shoulder. Ned, Aunt May cannot know, I repeated. Swear it! I must have sounded super serious because Ned blinked and stepped back a little. Okay, I swear, he said, and I knew he meant it. I will explain everything tomorrow. You will get all the answer. Promise, I said. Before Ned left, he had one more question. How do you get all of this in the Stark internship? There's no Stark internship, I replied, shutting the door on his confused look. I counted on three, waiting for him to put the pieces together. Oh, Ned's voice came through the door right on cue. The following night, Aunt May had dropped Ned and I at Liz's place for a party that she was having. Ned was convinced that Spider-Man should make an appearance, so I was up on the roof. I pulled out my mask and pressed the chest button to tighten the suit. Hey guys, just thinking by to say hi to my best bros Ned and Peter, I said, practicing my best superhero voice. This was ridiculous. I sighed and reached for my clothes to get dressed. A loud booming sound stopped me as I was about to put one leg in my pants, standing up on the roof. I scanned the horizon to locate where the sound came from. Oh man, it was the purple thing again. The trail was still arcing across the city. Okay, fake Avengers, time for round two. The source of the blast was a few miles away. I tucked my body into a dark hiding place, trying to figure out what was going on. Below me, a few men stood behind an unmarked white man. Apparently, one man's name was Bryce, or at least that's what the others called him. He held a piece of a tech that looked familiar, like the one I've seen in ATM fight. I got tons of great stuff in here, right, Schools? Bryce said, opening the back of the van. Take a look, man. I have cloners, black hole grenades, stun batons, anti-gravity climber. Beat. Dang it, Superhero 101. Always put your phone on vibrate when stalking bad guys. What was that? Bryce asked, looking around. Well, my cover was blown. No use trying to hide anymore. I jumped down a few feet away from the van. Stop! I'm the law and you're under arrest, I called out, trying not to let how much I was sweating under my suit. Charles yelled, pulling out his gun. I quickly waved the gun to his hand. Kablamo! Out of nowhere, the guy called Bryce punched me with some kind of high-tech gauntlet, sending me about 10 feet in the air. Guess I asked for that. The man jumped into the van. Groggily, I got my feet as they started their engine. Enough talk, time for action. Tweep, tweep. I whipped the van and pulled as hard as I could, only to be yanked back as the van took off. What me doing the worst water skiing impression ever as I pulled me along behind it. I held in the van, turned on one corner and then another. Raising my head, I saw Bryce grab a weapon from the back of the van and aim it right at me. The purple power core lit up as he pulled it together. I blasted wildly and Bryce lost the hold of it. The weapon fell onto the road, but blast tore the open of the side of the van, hitting my web and sent me sprawling. I ran after the van as fast as I could. Then, swinging from a lamppost, I flipped onto the top of the van. Now all I had to do is crawl to front and whoa! I was suddenly in the air. The wind was whooshing in my ears as I looked up and see what had plucked me into the van. It was some kind of flying creature. All I could see were its glowing eyes and wide wingspan as we could continue to rise higher and higher. Trying not to look down, I wondered whether I could survive a fall from this height. Mr. Demon Wing didn't seem to care either way. We were over a lake when a beeping noise caught us both off guard. It was coming from my suit. A parachute exploded from the back, tearing me away from the flying monster. Looking up, I caught a quick glimpse of the creature, blackest against the moon. His massive wings, glowing eyes were the last thing I saw before. Splash! Hitting the water felt like being slammed into a building. I tried swimming up, but I kept caught in the parachute. It was dragging me down and I was running out of air. With a muted thunk, I hit the bottom of the lake. Last thing I could see and remember my eyes closed was the glow of the demon's eyes, getting brighter and brighter. Yep, this was the end. My lungs inflated as I broke through the surface of the water. I wasn't dead! Hooray! I looked up to see who or what was carrying me. It was Iron Man. I had been rescued. We landed next to the lake and started talking as fast as I could through the chattering teeth, explaining to Iron Man what had happened. How did you even find me? I asked. Then it dawned on me, no way, he didn't. Did you put a tracker in my suit? Yes, and it's my suit, he corrected him. You're leasing it at monthly. Don't get yourself killed with it. Thank God this place has Wi-Fi or you would have drowned. I had a strategy. I did not have a strategy. What? To die and fight him in afterlife? Look, kid, just forget the flying man. Stay closer to the ground in Queens. Build up your game helping the little pupil. But I can help. I pressed, getting a little frustrated. He is the source of the superpowered weapons. Just trust me. Stay out of it. Goodbye, Peter. And with that, Iron Man fired up the boost repulsor and flew off. On my way home that night, I followed the order and crept close to the ground, so close that I found that weapon Bryce's dropped on the road. It was mostly smashed up, but there was a purple glowing egg thingy that was still intact. It looked alien. I pocketed it. The next day at school, I showed it to Ned. It's like a battery, he said, but attached to a microprocessor. Awesome! We took the alien battery into a workshop and tried everything possible to crack it open. Finally, I used a brute force. At first, it wouldn't budge. Then with a pop, it came loose. Score! Next thing, I knew a flare of purple energy nearly stinging my eyebrows. I shoved in my backpack as the bell rang. We got to figure out who made this, I said. Somebody built this weapon by combining alien tech with ours. That is literally the coolest sentence anyone has ever said. Ned replied. His mind was officially blown. After school, we made our way to the physics lab. We were trying to figure out what the egg thingy stick when I suddenly realized realized we weren't alone. Peering down the hall, I saw two men. One of them was his skirts, but the other guy was calling him Shocker. It seemed like they had traced us. The energy flare I would left off earlier. I showed Ned under the teacher's desk and leaped onto the ceiling. Just as the door opened and man entered, Shocker looked around, but not up, thankfully. Whatever it was, it's gone now, said the other man. Let's get out of here, replied Shocker. As I turned to leave, I managed to fire a Spidey tracker from my wrist gadget into a Shocker's pan. The nano burst resulted in a scene. Two could play at a breaking game. Later, Ned and I traced Shocker to somewhere in Virginia, not far from where the academic picnic was being held in Washington, D.C. The next morning, I rejoined the academic team just in time to get the bus for the trip. Everyone else was ready on board as I raced up my hand. My permission slip to Mr. Harrington, the coach. They still needed me for the physics portion of the com, so no one except for Flash made a fuss about me being back. Liz smiled at me as I looked my seat. I gave her a small smile back as I settled in next to Ned. On the way, my phone buzzed. It was Happy Hogan. He didn't sound amused. You left the New York City? He said. Huh? How did he? The tracker in my suit. It's just a school trip, I said, whispering. Look, we're just going to DC for academic decathlon. No big deal, Happy grunted. It seems like no big deal. Just be careful. He hung up. I placed the do not disturb sign on our hotel room door, unpacked the suit and turned it inside out. I need to follow these guys to their boss, I explained to Ned, and I don't want Mr. Stark to find it. Ned found the tracker and pulled it out. Whoa! Did you know there's a ton of subtitle in this thing? But they're disabled by the... He pointed at the monitor and chuckled. I read the file name and groaned. Training wheel protocol? They aren't taking me seriously, I thought. Ned, can you turn the protocol off? Yeah, Ned said. Training wheels are off. My job here is finished. Actually, not yet, I said, turning to the other object on the bed. Glowing thing, it's evidence. Keep it safe. Ned stuffed it in his backpack as long as you keep yourself safe. I slipped out of the room, climbed up on the roof, and changed my suit. I pulled on the mask and suddenly it sparked to life, with crazy reads on biometrics and maps. I wondered what it was like being inside an Iron Man's head. Good evening, Peter. A female voice came from inside my mask. I almost fell back in the surprise. Where would you like to take me tonight? My suit was asking me out. No, idiot. It was probably a glance program. Training wheels are off. Remember? I activated the holographic map on my web shooter. A red flashing dot showed up. It was the tracer I had attached to Shocker. Well, I was gonna go here, I said. It would be my pleasure to direct you, Peter, said my suit. About an hour later, the hologram map had the bad guys just over the hill in front of me. I crept up the hill to find a beat up van near an abandoned petrol station. Shocker was there along with two other guys. Soon the winged monster came sweeping down with the sky. I heard the Shocker saying, Vulture inbound. The Vulture is a device on the roof of a truck driving up the road. The top of the truck's cargo container vanished and the Vulture flew inside. I swung in after him and saw the Vulture shifting through the cargo. He was stashing the alien tech into the bag. I shouted away and trapped him, but he threw back and flew up onto his night sky. I lunged after him, but the Vulture activated the device he would use earlier. The top of the container reappeared just in time for my head slam into it, knocking me out cold. Hours later, I woke up. The truck had stopped, but I still trapped in the sealed container. How did he do that? I muttered. How does the hole appear and then become solid again? Analysts determined it was some type of hybrid alien fusion technology, my suit answered. I looked at the heap of junk all around me. The Vulture had found the alien tech here. Maybe I could too. I started digging and eventually I found something. It was a glowing thing, just like one Ned and I cracked open. A cheetah energy source, the suit explained. If damaged, it would emit a pulse, she said. Yeah, I know, I replied. Eventually, it pulls all of the energy the suit finished. But all of it? You mean like explode? In this confined space, you might be killed. The glowy thingy was taking time once when cracked. I realized Ned and I already cracked one open, which meant only one thing. I had left an alien bomb with Ned, my best friend, Liz, the entire Decana team, and they were all in danger. I used my strength to break the door of the container and escape. I called Ned's phone. Peter, Ned answered, "Are you okay? You Mr. Dickinson." "Yeah," I said. "Ned, where's the glowing thing?" "Don't worry, it's safe," Ned whispered back. "I have got in my backpack." "What? Ned, where are you?" "We are at the Washington Monument," he informed me. "Great. Huge public space full of people." "Ned, listen," I cut him off. "You have to—" The rest of my sentence was lost in some fumbling on the other end, and I heard Liz telling Ned to hand it over. "Peter, we're going through a security," she said before I could go on. "We gotta hang up, but you're in big trouble." Then the line was dead. Time was running out. Suit lady scanned the area for the fastest way to the Washington, D.C. monument. Finally, I could see the giant obelisk that was Washington Monument. I leaped up the door of the bus. I was changing into the for past 20 minutes. After sprinting for what seemed like ages, I finally reached the base of the monument, only to almost run over Michael. I said in my superhero voice, "Where are you? Where's your class?" Michael looked at me and shocked and pointed up. Fa-boom! A stream of purple energy lit up and burst out of the top of the Washington Monument. All around me, people were screaming and running. "Suit lady, what happened? Are they okay?" I was desperate for any information. "Engaging sonar hyper annihilation," the suit responded, and my mask's view changed to an X-ray vision to the monument. Way up to the top, I could see the elevator. A red circle appeared around it. There's where Ned, Liz, and others were. All elevator occupants appears to be alive. "Oh, thank God!" I exhaled slightly. Then she continued, "For the next 8 minutes and 20 seconds. What? The elevator structure in reality has been compromised, and it will all fall." My mind was scrambling for a plan when a familiar voice echoed my thoughts. "What are you doing?" "Help them!" Michael yelled. Yeah, on it," I said, not even bothering to use my superhero voice. There was no time. I had to get to the top of that mountain. The Washington Monument was a huge. It wasn't at the top of yet. It was already the highest I would ever climb. 30 seconds, the suit informed me. Suddenly, I heard a whip, whip, whip behind me. I turned and saw a police helicopter. "Return to the ground immediately," a voice rang out from the megaphone. But my friends were almost out of time. I made a break for it, climbing as fast as I possible. I reached the top. I stood up the time for plan insanity. 5 seconds. No turning back. I took a deep breath and dived off the monument. I flew straight at the helicopter, arcing over it. Twip! I fired my web at helicopter landing skid. It caught a tumbling on a roll. I swung back around towards the window. 0 seconds. The elevator roof is no longer attached. The suit updated came just as I crashed through the window. I could hear Natalie screaming as the elevator started to drop. Twip bong whip! The web I fired down the elevator stabbed down its mark, catching the elevator and stopped its half. I started to pull up the elevator, bracing my feet against the doorframe. Then a gust of wind sucked me right into the shaft until, wham! I was on my back in the elevator, looking up at the people I was trying to save. "Hey, Ned," said, smiling. I gave a weak wave, "Hey," aiming at the top of the shaft. I fired another web, this time as the gears of the elevator were slammed. We slammed into the health. I leaped up, bracing my feet against the remaining of the roof. With all my might, I started to put this up higher. Almost there. Finally, we were gotten back to the eye with the landing. Mr. Harrington climbed out onto the observation deck. Ned was right behind me. I knew you would make it, Ned whispered to me as he climbed past. This was the only one left in the elevator when the roof started to groan, and I felt it give me under feet. I reached towards her. Take my hand! I yelled. Too late, the roof snapped off and the elevator began to free fall to the bottom, 500 feet below. Bracing my feet to stability, I immediately shot a strand of webbing towards Lily's hand. Yes! It caught and then she hovered in midair as the elevator dropped down under her. Seconds later, a loud boom rang up through the shaft. The elevator had smashed into the ground. Liz, still connected by my web, was safe. I pulled her back and swung her to the platform with the others. You okay? I asked. She seemed lost for words and only nodded. I think that's a positive sign. Good. Unsure of that, I spattered out. I guess I'm gonna go. I shot a wave at the ceiling and gave a slight awkward wave to my friends as I slowly descended to elevator shaft. My stark words echoed in my head. Keep doing what you're doing, saving the little people. Except these weren't just the little people. They were my friend, and as long as they were safe, everything would be okay. I didn't need to wait there for the call to be an Avenger. I was already an SpiderMan. That's it for today, guys. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the story, and be sure to look out for my original story which will be came soon. By the time, bye guys.